Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and noise marines to 6 where today we are getting our very first reactions to the Emperor's Children, who have just been released. And obviously, it's going to be a little while till they filter into the main game, but we've got the rules out in the wild. There are rumors of models appearing out in the wild, boxes are being bought, all sorts of exciting things are happening. And for this incredibly sort of iconic legion who have some real devotees, not least the man that I will be turning to for advice today. I think this is a massively exciting moment and possibly the most exciting individual release of 10th edition. I do think the Eldar will give them a run. All the Aspect Warriors turning up is pretty fun, but this is a very good one too, to have Emperor's Children finding out in the world. And so to guide me through what we've got, because this is not something I've done into in personal detail just yet, we have our very own Dark Prince. We have the man of 6 when you want to play Chaos Space Marines or indeed Emperor's Children. He's been repping them for a very long time. He's beaten me with them more times than I care to count. It is the wonderful Lee Churchwood. Lee, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on talking about my Emperor's kids. They are
Yes.
they're very special to me.
They are genuinely your real love in 40k, aren't they? I mean, how long have you actually been playing Emperor's Children in some form now?
Since I got back into the hobby, which was 5 or 6 years ago, I've played nothing but. Actually, no, sorry, there was that dark dalliance I had with Guard,
Yeah.
but that was one tournament, so it's fine.
Yeah. No, you are a genuine faction specialist in that sense, and you've played them through many iterations. There was obviously the sort of I remember the kind of Chaos Terminators era where they had the amazing deep strike delivery of charges. I think that was the first time we ever played. You were dropping Terminator bricks on me, and it was all very horrible. There have been drop pods, there have been noise marines, there has been all sorts of nonsense. But obviously, you've got a new release now, which I think, and then we'll get into it. It's like there's opportunity there, and there's also the end of an era for some things as well, right? It's quite a weird thing. You're letting certain toys go, you're getting new ones, and as we'll get into, it's a release where it's interesting trying to figure out what this means and what this is going to look like competitively for a while. So I imagine you've had a very busy brain trying to puzzle out through this stuff and work out what's happening next for you. So what we're going to be doing today, obviously, it'll be a state of play-esque episode, but obviously Emperor's Children haven't been out in the world yet. So this isn't a where the army's at, because we don't know. We're speculating a bit, but we're looking at the early impressions of the book. We're going to look at the army rule, some of the units, some of the detachments, and we'll also talk about Lee's early games and learnings with the faction itself. So to open things up, oh no, I should self-promote. Sorry, everyone. Hit like and subscribe, leave us a comment, all that good stuff. If you want to sign up and be a YouTube member, we would love to have you on board supporting us as well. Now we'll get into it. So the meat and potatoes. Lee, if you were going to sort of summarize your first impressions, having read into this, dived into this, played a couple of games, how are you feeling about the Emperor's Children release in general? What's your kind of emotional reaction to it, being as a rule set and as a tool to play 40k with?
I think initially it was one of just extreme excitement.
Yeah,
it was a Christmas Day moment where you just want to see what it's all about. You want all the leaks, you want all the information when you're not allowed it, and then you just kind of just wade through it. You want to wade through every possible review. You want to look at any online games where people are repping it already. You just want to immerse yourself in all the goodness. In excess, some may say.
Very good.
But no, it's a very interesting one. You look through the Codex. You've got 6 detachments, which just really, really kind of upsets people who play Tau, and then and you're just wading through them, thinking, okay, what do they want from this one? Where's this direction in this one? What are the where's this pointing me? And there's so much difference and flavor and lore-based goodness all sprinkled all the way through. You've got the new units, the Tormentors, the Infractors, Fulgrim, the Flawless Blades, and each of them has their own little nuances, and that kind of brings so much to the game, because as someone who's obviously played a lot of Chaos Space Marines, things like Infiltrate and Scout have been things.
What is that?
Yeah, unless you bring a little nurgling friend with you, you've got nothing. So it's opened up a lot of opportunities to play the game in a very different way, which is extremely exciting, and I can't wait to do more of it.
And you're quite a combaty pressure type player. And obviously, Emperor's Children in many ways are a combat-y pressure type army. Does it deliver that vibe? Are you getting that feeling from this in terms of how the EC have historically played for you?
I think it's going to be a lot of testing to find out that you've got the ability to throw yourself into your opponent. There's absolutely no doubts about that. The fact that you can basically stage half your army in the midboard with your infiltrates and your scout moves and scouting rhinos and all things like that. That allows you to have a lot of pressure turn one. But then you have to weigh that up with the fact that you're actually quite glass. And if you throw yourself too hard against your opponent, you may shatter and then just pick up the pieces after it.
And that seems to be one of the killer differences. If we're thinking about, World Eaters, another Chaos army that's a speedy melee army, you're like, actually, the individual units, in terms of the durability in EC, we're looking at much more fragile bodies, right? There's not 5 battlefield panes everywhere, which means that picking your fights is going to be very important, right?
And I think that's where the additional speed comes in as well. So you've got the extra inch on most of your infantry. You've got the additional scouts and things like that, which allow you to get up the board. But again, it does also allow you to move around quickly away from specific engagements and get yourself across the board fast. And again, I think the army rule, which is the fact that you can advance and charge, advance and shoot, fall back and charge, etc., allows you to do that army wide. Admittedly, you've got the caveat where you have to specifically pick the units, so you can't do multiple advance and charges into certain things. And again, that stops you committing multiple units to get away the big bads of your opponent. So you do have to pick your battles wisely.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's interesting caveats there, and I think it is going to require a little bit of mental planning and plotting and scheming in your turns, right, to get the most out of it. So that's probably where we will start. I think Thrill Seekers, the army rule, is quite a unique army rule. You start off reading it and you're like, oh, okay, well, we know what this is. And then it's like, but actually, it's more complicated than that. And so obviously with Thrill Seekers, you are able to shoot and declare a charge after advancing or falling back. But with the couple of caveats that you can't do so against a unit you were already engagement range with at the start of the turn. And you also cannot target a unit that is the target of another unit's charge or attack this phase. And that's not like in total, right? But it's like you couldn't double up advancing and charging on something or double up fallback and charging on something. But obviously a standard move and charge would be able to combine, I assume, with the rule.
And when you fall back, you can't charge into the unit that you've just fallen back from.
Yes, exactly. So in that sense, it is definitely different. It's definitely a little bit more chaos, if you will, in that. There's going to be a lot of sort of swapping. And I quite like the lore dimension to that of, oh, look, an exciting new pleasure to be had over here. I'm going to run away. I'm done with this toy now. It's actually I think 40k players can empathize with the Emperor's Children here, getting distracted by some new challenge or opportunity and running off somewhere else. I think that's a very 40k mentality.
And I think if it was just blanket advance and charge and all that goodness, just imagine the chaos. It would be S tier. It'd be nerfed within weeks. It would just be bonkers. Yes. I think it's probably a wise step from our friends at Warhammer to
And so in practice, having used it a little bit, how are you finding managing the stipulations and the rules? Do you still get that sense of a very mobile, punchy army? Are the constraints too much, or is it something you've been able to play around and enjoy so far?
I think that as long as you're spending some time doing your planning before you pick up the models and start moving them, you're going to be okay. It's a case of you've got to really map it out a little bit more severely in your head before you start throwing things around. It may be that you have to use the Noise Marines to ensure you get a kill on something which is slightly tougher. So you have to combine the Noise Marine shooting with then a unit that's going to advance and charge into them. Because one thing you'll probably find quite quickly is not everything is going to kill as hard as you think it is.
Yes. I'd agree with that. I think probably we'll get to it. There's probably only one unit in there which is the killer activation in and of itself. And for various reasons, that may not be one that you're taking necessarily from early lift drafting that we've seen, which means that it is going to be a real team effort, which makes it even more important to get the army rule right? Because if suddenly one unit isn't actually participating in a ruckus where you need it, that's going to make a big difference because they do need to work together to finish things off.
No, I completely agreed. It's a case of looking through the Codex, I think originally, and looking at those data sheets as well, because the things that I've found, my first game was with the Cotery of the Conceited, and
Yes.
that's the one where you have to guarantee your kills.
Mm.
And my friend came over with a guard army, which was solidly made out of mainly layman Russes. So I did go on to win the game quite convincingly, but it was all about trapping and wrapping and bouncing
Yes.
from one target to another, and just using every single rule in the army just to make sure you didn't get stuck in the fact that you just try to move block them so they got stuck in their deployment zone after turn one. But
Completely.
it's one of those ones where you have to respect the toughness of other things, but as well as try and come up with a solid plan to bounce around that board.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say, for a player like yourself, where you like to have a plan and have everything working in concert, I can see there being a lot of joy for that. But I think that's where the skill cap will be on the army. And I think you will. There is going to be in those early games for Emperor Student players. There's going to be the odd brain fart where suddenly something's stuck, not able to participate in the ruckus, and it's going to take a little bit of getting used to that. And there's going to be some sad, sulky noise where he's sat somewhere who can't do the thing they wanted to do because we've not quite managed it. So I think it's going to be useful before we dive into the detachments, because they do have real flavour and they do guide you in different directions. I think getting a sense of the units and the suite of tools you've been given here is very useful, because I think there are probably some eyebrows raised at the range of stuff you actually got. I think the units, perhaps the faction specific units we've got, I don't think there's surprises there. I think there's a bunch of stuff people are pretty happy to see. But then in terms of the CSM supporting cast, I think it's fair to say it feels a little bit lackluster, perhaps, in some ways. And maybe if we start with that, and then we'll get into all the exciting stuff that you did get. But how do you feel about the kind of ported CSM units that came over with this release?
I think that if you look at the Codex as a whole, but also the actual units we've got, I think there's a safety button that's been hit really hard here.
Yeah.
Because I think that there was possibly some worry about what if we give them this? How does it apply to the rules that we've got in these detachments? How does it apply to the army rule? So I think possibly when you see the omission of a Forge Fiend, it's because they're worried about the Forge Fiend never being able to be trapped. Because it can always fall back and shoot. And obviously the weakness of the Forge Fiend is being tapped. I think they've gone through and thought, okay, if we give them all this stuff, if we give them the long range shooting, if we give them the whole suite of tools, it may make everything a little bit OP, and we're going to have to rein it back. And it's just a case of, I think they've gone softly, and in the future we may get a few more toys thrown back to us if we're lucky. But
I think so.
I think we see where we sit in the meta first after the first few tournaments, and then see if we need it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels like probably there's room for more durable infantry, there's room for more sonic weaponry, all these sorts of things down the line. And obviously in GW style, they're going to make you wait another couple of years, leave before you get anywhere, before you get to look at any of that. It's so rude. So let's talk about the units you're excited about then. I think we start there. There are a bunch of incredible data sheets in here, but also some very interesting and flavorful EC units as well. So let's just hit the keynotes and talk through what you're excited about and what you're eyeing up in the book.
Right, so I've got my date sheets next to me, so I'm going to be looking this way occasionally. But we've got the Lord Exultant with his Hellraiser face. He's exciting. I love this little guy. He's very similar to the Lord from Chaos Space Marines, but he doesn't get the dev wounds. But he does have a special party mode where he gets 3 extra attacks and, like anything from Slaanesh, extra penetration. He gets an extra -1 for his armor penetration. And he also, a lovely little thing that he gets to have the abilities of the units he's attached to. So he gets the Scout if he's with the Infractors. He gets the Infiltrate if he's with the Tormentors, which is
a big deal.
That's really nice rules writing right there. Just so he doesn't affect things around him when he goes into it. And he is your missile. He is your little heat seeker that you can start up the board, and he has enough combat in him with his. What's he got? Strength 7. It's the spear you're going to be running. Everybody, it's definitely the spear because of the lance, that +1 to wound, and you're probably going to have it with the whip, the rupture lash. Just to get those extra attacks. It's going to help you clear those screens and just do that extra little bit of damage, especially with the lethal hits that he also provides.
Beautiful.
So he just amps up the damage of the infractors like the Chaos Lord does with the Legionnaires. And I found that he'll happily run in and just by himself pick up a Sentinel. He'll clear that 5-unit Mana Marines, unit of Marines, and he does the jobs that you need done quickly and up the board to get you where you need to be.
Yeah. So Lord Exultant, very, very exciting. And you
Very
mentioned
good.
infractors are the pairing option here. So is this the combat of the 2 new battle line options?
Yeah. So it is again weird that we've got no cultists. I think that's a kill team for the future. But it's definitely you get some kinky guys probably in leather, fully gimp masked up. With maybe like a 6-up Field of Pain. That's my prediction, everybody.
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah, because they like it a little bit. They like that. You know where I'm going with this. So
I can see it. Yeah.
Tormentors, infractors. So infractors are the melee, and we've got double battle line, which is great for those certain missions where you need to.
It's nice. It's versatile, right? And the box
really
obviously giving you a ton of those to play with as well is very nice.
You've got that pip of extra movement, that 7-inch movement. You've got precision on all the weapons, whether you're the shooty guys or the stabby guys, which is nice to have. I don't think it makes a huge difference, really. It's nice occasionally. It's great against certain armies.
I feel like in other combat matchups, that's going to feel brilliant, right? Just dicing off the characters in the one-on-ones over and over. Like, imagine poor orcs, all their war bosses just getting sliced in the first engagements every time.
That's where it comes to the grudge. And I think, like, if you're picking off those little guard characters or you're getting into the Gene Stealer cult and just messing those guys up. And you just steal the buffs away from your army whilst you're getting buffed probably in your detachments as well. But they've got the dueling blades with their basically chainswords, really, but precision chainswords. So they've got the 4 -1 damage, and you get CP back from these guys, which is something I was looking from through the Codex. Is there a way of generating CP? Because there's loads of cool strats, but there's obviously this cool way of getting it back. So again, if you kill a unit, you've got to pass a leadership test, and then you get a CP, which is a lovely little tool to have.
Yeah, that's really nice. So that package, Lord Exultant Infractors, that feels like something we'll see a lot. That's going to be a really nice.
And again, the Lord Exultant is your perfect relic caddy. The enhancements sit on them really, really well. And we'll talk about this more when we go through those detachments.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, wonderful. Okay, and so what else in terms of the units are we getting excited about?
So their friends and brothers, the Tormentors, where bolters matter. Precision bolters, precision melters, and precision plasma. Now, interestingly, I've heard and seen a few people running 10s of these. And the play behind it is you drop the unit. If you get the first drop, you screen out the whole middle of the board. And in Mercurial Host, you've got the cheeky redeploy. So your opponent can't put their stuff in the midfield. And you pull them away. And you've got an empty area for your scouts to fly up the board.
Yeah, that's really nice.
That's a nice way of using them. And then they've got the similar stuff. I don't think you put them with an Exultant unless there's something I'm missing, because the Scout 6 in a Rhino with that guy is better than starting them with something that hasn't got any punch.
For sure.
But they still get the same rule. They generate the CP. They have that objective defiled rule, which is very, very nice. So sticky objectives. And again, when you've got maybe that kind of hidden supplies where you've got those objectives dotted over the board, I found it was very nice to just start them hidden behind a little bit of a ruin somewhere in the center. You can either come towards me and get these 80-point idiots and then see what happens, or I get a sticky central objective that you're going to have to deal with later in the game.
So that's a perfect tool for sort of board control and, again, drawing the opponent out, like you say, and lining them up for the counterpunch. So they feel like maybe the sort of utility workhorse. You might not see, maybe not. You don't need necessarily as many as the infractors, but actually invaluable in a different way, which is a nice balance to strike. Yeah,
I think
every now and again you're going to like melt a typhus to death and be delighted. So
definitely, and I think 2 units is a nice number that I've been kind of having in all my lists. It's kind of that utility it gives you is brilliant. Then we have my boys, the noise boys.
The noise boys. Yeah,
they've been on the juice. They've been on the juice.
Yeah.
They've been pumping. The guns look heavier. They've got heavier.
Yeah,
They've
they
been
do.
curling them. They've been doing some
They
reps.
have. Yeah.
And because of that, they're tougher. They've got that 5 toughness. They're basically Havoc equivalents with 1 extra
Yeah.
movement compared to the Havoc. And then they've got the Blastmasters, 2 Blastmasters, not the one you used to be able to have, because there's 6 of these guys now. They've got the 2 Blastmasters. All the guns ignore cover, which is amazing because everyone gets cover all the time. And their profile is 3 shots, 10, AP -2, 3 damage, which is great, unless you're shooting into a layman Russ.
Yes, I was going to say. So it's a little bit like the Dark Reapers that just came out as well, right? Where it's a very powerful profile right up until it hits the real tough targets of the game, and then you're like, 5s, please. I would like some 5s.
It's true, and and again, one thing we find when we go through the detachments is these guys probably don't get as much support as I would like.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's very hard to get multiple rerolls or reroll all wounds or reroll all hits. It's not really there for you. So you're going to have to play them intelligently. They die fast, so you're going to have to look after them. Even though they do cut through infantry or medium infantry and possibly a little bit heavy infantry as well, pretty darn well.
Oh, 100% they do. Yeah.
And then they've got the little guns, the little sonic weapons, which are the your general sonic blasters, which are 5. So basically heavy bolters, 5, -1, 2 damage, 3 shots. And then you've also got the screamer pistol that you could have if you wanted to give a guy a power sword, which you probably don't. You want to shoot stuff real good.
Just want to blast stuff, right? And so for you, it's the big heavy gun, I assume, that's got your attention.
Yeah, 6 shots with that is very, very nice to have in your army. The data sheet ability rule, it's battle shock. No one wants to see a battle shock rule on one of your favorite bits. It combos with the next guy we'll probably talk about, which is the cacophonist.
Yeah,
but it's still a battle shock at the end of the day. And it basically whatever they shoot, when it does take a battle shock, it has to subtract 1 from that test. It's got some nice play. You could maybe use the cacophonist ability and then get the battle shock. They've got -1 before you send a unit charging in to stop Overwatch.
It's the team play situation, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's nice. You'll get it a few times. It'll stop a defensive strat or the Overwatch, and you'll be very smug. But it's not cool enough. I want all the rules. They look cool. They got cool guns. Where's the shoot on death they used to have? Where's the
don't you do it?
Come on, Hellblasters.
Yeah. Shoot on death would have been amazing. To be fair, that would have been really cool for them.
It would have been lore specific. Well, all from 8th edition onwards, all that cool stuff. But even so, beautiful models. And
they look phenomenal. Yeah.
So then let's jump up to the cacophonist because he's cool as well. He's
the plug-in for them, is he? He's the character that goes with.
He is the character that goes with these guys. He's like a confused Terminator that got lost. That got lost in a music shop, and instead of wearing Terminator armor, he's like strapped a cymbal to one arm, a big amplifier to his head. He's cool. He's really cool. He's actually got some cool rules as well, which go with him. And I think there's actually a case where you could run this guy by himself.
That's interesting. Okay, yeah.
He doesn't have deep strike, but he is a little idiot who, on a small base, can get into places where you don't want him. And he is a 2-up armor save with 6 wounds and a 4-up invulnerable save.
Yeah.
He's not dying very easily.
No, he's obnoxious. Yeah.
And he's 60 points. 60 points. This guy could just be an irritant in places where you don't want him, which is another thing that Slaanesh love.
And I think it sounds like from the early impressions, like going wide with lots of stuff to cause all the jumping off points for the rules and everything else feels like quite a smart play as well.
Oh, right? Completely. And then if you put him with the Noise Marines, I think what you're basically getting, I'm not a stato, so I may get don't put it in the comments that my stats are awful because they're not really my stats. I'm trying to remember other people's. But I think it gives you like somewhere around a 30% boost to your output having him in the unit. Because what he does is, 1, he's got double pistols He does have a sword option, but he's got double pistols, so that's cool. He's John Wick, so we're taking both of those guys, and that's 6 shots at 5 -2 1 damage. Always remember, because it's easy to forget, that he has a 2+ weapons ballistic skill, so he's hitting on 2 pluses. So he's got a little bit of output that he brings with it, but then he gives your whole unit, including himself, sustained. And then he has the Doom Siren, which is 3d6 on a 4+. He does a mortal wound, so on average 1.5.
That's nice. Yeah.
And they have to take a battle shock after the Noise Marines at -1.
Yes.
So he's a nice combo that has output, and that sustained elevates you up. And then when you maybe, I don't know, you get the reroll ones to hit and wound from certain detachments, you're going to be in a very powerful place and doing lots and lots of damage. Again, possibly not to the big things, but they're going to soften stuff up for you to hit.
Yeah. No, sounds great. And he does. He looks particularly weird. That's what I like about him. He's the weirdest looking guy in that release.
Oh, completely. And he can join Terminators, which is really great. It's not great.
That's interesting.
It's not
great. I was going to say, I'm not hearing
great
things about the Terminators at the moment. So.
Should we talk about those, Paul? Let's have a quick
let's do it. Yeah. So, sidebar.
As Tom alluded to, my favourite edition, one of my favourite editions, was, I think it was 8th edition running into early 9th, with 30 Terminators, where you could still pick what they carried. So they all had combi melters and a claw for reroll wounds, and you just used to drop them in and just honour the prints into people and destroy them. But now it's sad because we can only take 5 of them, which is probably okay, really, because their rules are so bad you'd never want to take 10 anyway. So you've got 5 Terminators, which are still quite expensive. They're still above the price point you want to take them anyway.
Yeah.
And they lose the reroll hits. They don't carry over reroll hits from Chaos Space Marines. They get, if you shoot your guns into one target fully, so half the stuff you're going to be shooting your guns into is probably going to kill most of them anyway. You get to re-roll your charge into them. And it's like 5 aren't going to kill particularly something good in melee anymore. No. And your guns aren't going to... It's just a lose-lose.
And a re-rolled charge with no boosting is still not great, is it?
Nope, not if you're coming in from deep strike.
Not if you're trying to drop in. Yeah, exactly.
So
R.I.P. Terminators. They'll get something in the future. There'll be some new Terminators, I'm sure.
Other highlight. I'm saving the best to last, guys, but or some might not. Some might not think the best to last. Flawless blades. So we're not the last one yet. Flawless blades. No. They're a weird one. They seem like they are beautiful. They've got
they look amazing.
Loads of. If you don't like the cone heads, guys, don't worry. There's loads of other heads in the box. You can change them around. I like the cone heads. It's a bit Hellraiser-y for me.
It is very weird and wonderful, isn't it? And slightly phallic as well.
And they've got this. They've got a really cool rule, which is demonic patrons, where they get critical wounds on 3s. So they can, in theory, do the same damage to something that's really tough as they do to something really small. But in a way, they're almost better attacking those bigger things because they've only got 3 attacks each. So they've not got the output to wipe through like orc boys, loads of orc boys, or loads of Kriegers and all these other things. But then the other problem you've got is if you don't kill that big thing you're swinging into, then you get punished for being rubbish. They probably want to speak to their union, to be quite honest, because they do very well. They destroy a model if you don't kill the thing. If you don't kill a model, you lose a model. So if you're going into a Tesseract Vault and you don't kill it in that activation, you're losing a model because they've not lost their Tesseract Vault. Why did I choose Tesseract Vault there? That's a very strange niche pick. But but that's the thing. They've got 8 movement, which is lovely. Not as good as a possessed. No. Weird. They've got toughness 5, not as good as a possessed. They've got a 3-up, 5-up, same as a possessed. They've got 3 wounds, and they've got a leadership 6, OC 1. So the stat line isn't superb. The weapons are kind of cool. It's strength 6 weapon, -3, 2 damage.
Yeah, AP3 on those is nice, right? That
It
is
is.
you don't see that handed out everywhere, and that certainly is chunky.
Yeah.
Combined with the fact they can wound hard targets,
You've got
but it's interesting.
you've got
Yeah,
lots of ways of plussing the AP, so
yeah,
you
okay.
can quite easily get that to AP4.
Mm,
But if you run up against anything with -1 damage, they're having a sad old time. Um,
yes.
the weird thing is that they've got two sword options in the box. You've got
Mm,
the big swords and you've got two little swords. So it's almost seems to
mm,
me that they were supposed to almost be, you've got your exalted and your normal eight
yeah,
bound. That maybe at some stage in rules writing there were two options,
yeah,
one for
yeah,
chopping up the little dudes and one for taking down big things. But
yeah. And
but
someone's been
maybe
like, "That's too wild."
yeah, you're going to have an
Yeah.
extra unit there on your hands, guys. Look out.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to see in future releases and future editions whether that gets changed.
Yes, because that sounds like they could maybe benefit from being able to be tooled up in different directions to
Yeah,
deal with different
and have a
types of
different
things.
ability possibly that goes with those two different types of sword.
Mm.
So that's interesting. I still like them. I still think they have a place maybe in the what's the bladesman? Is it bladesman? The
Peerless
detachment,
bladesman. Yeah,
peerless bladesman.
that's my favorite purely because I'm lazy and I see sustained and lethal and I go, yum, that's great. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
basically any way to boost the number of attacks really is what you're looking for with these boys.
Mhm.
Um, then an unsung hero leaps to the front, the Chaos
Okay.
Spawn. The Chaos Spawn.
Chaos spawn. Let's hear it.
They have got an awesome datasheet ability. They can, what's it called? Scouting Horrors. They can
Okay.
reactive move 6.
Oh,
Just
that's
that's it.
so
Flat
annoying.
6.
Yeah, so good.
You want area denial done? Out they go. You want
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
cleanse an objective? Out they go. And
yeah.
if your opponent doesn't have the shooting, then they come out and they run away again, back behind a wall.
Yeah,
It
yeah, and
is,
obviously anything that can reactive move in an army that's packing a few tasty bits of fights first is a powerful thing.
oh God. And yeah, and if their points did go up, they went up to 80 points, but they're still at a price point where they are definitely worth it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I think a minimum 1, possibly 2, if you're loving it. And
Hmm.
but I think they're solid. And then last of all, where have I not got the data sheet? Because I'm still waiting for the Codex from Scrivo, so I've got the pictures of it.
Hmm.
Have you got our Lord and Master's data sheet in front of you?
I can probably try and find it somewhere. We can have a look.
Fulgrim's data sheet.
We have, yeah. The two remaining considerations really are Fulgrim and Lucius, right? I
Oh,
think
completely.
those are the killer things. So let's have a look and see
So
if.
I'll go through what I know of Fulgrim already. So
Mhm,
Fulgrim,
mhm.
again, the people who moaned about this model not looking nice need to be dragged into a public square and have free for it because it is an absolute winner.
It's stunning, isn't it?
You're going to buy it, you're going to paint it, even if you don't think the rules are up to it. You're going to
Yeah,
have one just to show your friends and play all your fun games with because
yeah.
he is an absolute beauty.
And so
Um,
to take you through it, Fulgrim, he's got 16-inch move, T11, 2 up, 4 up Invan, 16 wounds, 5 up leadership, OC6, so quite demon primarchy, but 16 move base is very, very rapid. That's I think Magnus can take himself up to 16 move, but Fulgrim just is all the time. And then he's got either a great big strength 14 AP3 D6 plus 1 damage strike, so 6 attacks, or he can go to a sweep mode for 12 strength 8 AP2 damage, 2 attacks. And he's got sustained hits on both of those just built in as well. He's got a little bit of shooting and he's got some fun
Poison.
aura abilities as well. Yeah, he's got poison, so after he shoots a fight, he picks a unit and it's poisoned for the rest of the battle. At the start of each player's command phase, you're rolling a d6 for each poisoned unit on the table. And on a 4-up, they take d3 mortal wounds. If he lives for any length of time, and that is a big caveat with Fulgrim, that could get really, really, really wild potentially, and very, very annoying for the opponent. I think
it's it'll pick up a few models here and there. I think it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And I think if you run through the list of Fulgrim things, is he cool? Yes. Do you want
Oh,
him
he's
in your
awesome.
army? Yes. Is he pointed correctly at the moment? Contention. A lot of people are saying
Maybe too expensive.
possibly too expensive because if you have him in the army, you really do notice the lack of units.
Yes.
Is he a missile that's going to kill something? Yeah. Have I seen him run into things he should definitely kill and not kill them? Yes, I have.
He's got that as well. Yeah.
So I think that's the question. In his current form, does he do the job that you need him to do? Does he stay on the table more than just his go turn?
Yeah.
And at the minute, I don't know.
I think for me, it's because of he's got his supporting suite of abilities. He can make himself -1 to hit. He can give himself fights first, and he can also do the 6-inch leadership trapping effect. These are powerful things, but they drop off rapidly if you're playing against something that can just shoot you. I think that's his big issue. I feel like he's going to feel powerful in combat matchups, but I think he's going to feel pretty ropey into anything that goes, well, I don't mind not being able to fall back from a monster. I could just blast him. Obviously, if you can get the setup and you can trap other little guys in within, that helps for a while. But obviously, as soon as Fulgrim's dead, it gets a bit peaky. And then, so I think, I can see the plays with him. Yeah. But I think he's a lot of points, and everything else we're describing so far sounds like cheap and nasty, lots of stuff. Let's go wide and cause all sorts of mayhem. And he's not quite fitting into that plan. We have a Emperor's Children WhatsApp. Because purely out of a desire to be different, I'm only ever going to run Emperor's Children with Fulgrim, because that's the hill I've decided I'm going to die on. But I'm not looking to maximize this book or get the absolute most from it. And I can see that perhaps he's going to run a little bit counter to some of the other things you want to do with the other tools that you've got, right? Yeah.
Yep. And then I think the true hero of the Codex, the hero that
and you would say this because you've been bonded with him for so much longer.
This guy. Again, another chap that's been down the gym, because I think I may be wrong, but I think he's coming out on a 50 mil base.
Yeah, so he looks big. Yeah,
he is a big boy now, and he has got some sweet rules.
Yeah, he is Lucius the Eternal, guys.
Lucy. I shouldn't really say his name. Lucius the Eternal, and he has got. He's the only character that can go to the floor with the flawless blades.
Yeah.
Which again is something I would argue maybe they should have let the Exaltant go with them as well. But hey, we'll find out.
Yeah.
But again, I think that might be another way of them just tempering the Codex a little bit. But with him in the flawless blades, he doesn't give them anything because it's Lucius. He doesn't give a crap about anybody else. But he gets their wonderful ability to have critical wounds on 5s, which takes his damage level to another planet, because this dude is packing now a strength 8 -3 damage.
Chunky.
Blade of the Lair. Bring the Lord back into this bomb. Yeah, he's got the Lair blade, which is a very saucy sword. And he can re-roll his hits and wounds against characters or character units. Which again is a great rule because they're everywhere. They are everywhere. He will be doing the God's work. He does have lone op and fights first, but he does lose them if you marry him with the flawless blades.
Yeah, which is a shame.
And I would argue that if people do put him with the flawless blades or don't put him with the flawless blades, he's still good with either. I think he's better in general by himself, but there's no reason why I wouldn't put him in a list with 6 flawless blades, and then when I know what the matchup is, I decide whether he goes with him or not.
Exactly that.
Because that gives you a bit of onus on what you kind of play style that you want to go with them. If you do need something jumping out of a Land Raider to kill the moon, he's the guy with the flawless blades to do it. So you've got that idea there. So he is amazing, and he's
super good.
I think he's the real winner in this Codex. He is just leveled up.
He's just a fantastic missile. Lone op is always great to have. Feel no pain on a tough marine is obnoxious. And then, he will just blend. He will just blend into all sorts of things.
So good. So very good.
Very, very good. So that covers, I think, the majority of the options people are excited about. But there are a couple of big demonic presences in this book that I've also heard some chatter about. So is it worth touching briefly on them before we go to the detachments?
Yes, we've got the inclusion of the Slaanesh demons. We have an assortment, a sprinkling in the Codex. Not all of them, so we're missing out on a few of the characters and obviously the chariots. But we do get the demonettes. We do get the fiends, the seekers, and a named character, Shalaxi, as well as the Keeper of Secrets. They are lower
Yeah.
on points, but they have lost a lot of the good stuff.
Yeah, they've been toned down a little bit, haven't they? For sure.
They have. The Shining Aegis no longer gives you the Feel of Pain. It gives you a 3-up save. And that just takes them from hero level down a peg or two. They'll still be fun to
Yeah, for
run.
sure.
The detachment, which we'll look at in a minute, is still really good. But I think you're probably not going to see them. I think you're probably going to see people running a lot of Demonettes, maybe Seekers, and maybe Fiends. Demonettes have changed a little bit as well. They've got basically some little rules on there. They've got +1 to charge with their icons as per usual, but they also have in the fight phase called Horrifying Beauty. Each enemy unit with engagement must take a battle shock subtracting 1. I swear they had fight first. Have I just made that up? They do have fights first. They definitely do have fights first. It's at the top. So they have fights
There you
first
go.
as well. So that's the
Yeah.
important bit. The fights first is there. So I think 90 points for 10 OC2. Oh, sorry, OC1. Oh, OC1 bodies with fights first, just to get off the buffs in the detachment is probably where you're looking. Keep it cheap, keep lots of body money around, and keep your buffs
Just
coming.
more little bits of utility. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
it.
And where do you stand on the Demon Princes? Because
We
they've
missed those
also
guys.
they've snuck in here as sort of somewhere in between, and I'm hearing some quite positive noises about the Demon Princes.
How could I forget the Demon Princes? The way I like to look at this is you run both of them for very similar points ratio to Fulgrim, and they each have some wicked abilities. They both do very different jobs. So let's start with the Demon Foot on Prince.
Demon
Prince
Foot
on
on Prince.
This guy is awesome. So he's the same stat line as he was. So he's got his 10 wounds, his toughness 10, his 10-inch move, 3 OC, 2 up, 4 up. But he has got the abilities of Lord of Excess. So any model within 3 inches or more of the friendly Slaanesh infantry, he gets Lone Op.
That's very good. That's very, very good. Very needed.
So good.
Yeah.
So he can stand on one side of scenery. You can have some guys behind the scenery, stand out in the open, go and bring it on. He can be there to be your counter charge. He can be there to be your what's the word that's just lost my brain? 6-inch charge from behind somebody else.
Oh,
heroic intervention.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, so if that's good enough for me, Lone Up is brilliant. But on top of that, he gets another one, Excessive Vigor. So if you are within 6 inches when you make your charge, you get extra AP, 1 extra AP.
Oh, that's great.
Your Flawless Blades go up to AP 4. Your Lord Exultant is now AP 3. Brilliant. And why not? Let's give him another one. Let's give him Fight on Death.
Oh, yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah,
Why
that
not?
seems reasonable.
Why not?
So he sounds brilliant.
He
really
is
good.
Amazing. And I ran him when I played the guard. He just stood out in the open and it's like, do you want to come closer? Do you want to come closer? And eventually, with all my other charges going off, I was able to get him into a Layman Russ, which he did manage to kill. It's not normal that he'll kill one, but he did manage to kill one. And then his mate, Demon Prince with Wings, who again is amazing. He's got the body slam, belly flop attack where he will charge into you, and for the amount of wounds he has remaining, he gets a D6, and then on a 4 up for each of those D6s, he will do a mortal wound to a maximum of 6, which is
spicy.
It spikes the damage up so much that he produces, because both the Demon Princes have a strength 8 -2 3 damage weapon. So they're not doing it against tanks, but they are doing it against anything else. But with the addition of 10 wounds, let's say 5 mortal wounds, on top of what he's bringing with his sword, he is going to be killing some good stuff for you.
Exactly.
And he is so fast. He is so fast. He is, so the other thing he's got is stimulated by pain. Each time an attack is allocated to him, will subtract 1 from the damage. So he has got -1 damage. So we've got one guy who fights on death, one guy who is -1 damage. And then if that's not good enough, you can cover them in enhancements to make them glorious.
And this is probably the edge they've got on Fulgrim at the minute in the early conversation. Is just you can tool and adjust these guys to be what you want them to be and serve different roles. So there's some real application for them. So no, that's very, very exciting, and obviously it's on Fulgrim to demonstrate that he is the true Demon Prince, and we'll get him back in the game at some point.
Indeed.
And so, I mean, it's a very good suite of things. It feels like, as you were saying, the running theme is once you get above a certain toughness, you're scrapping and hustling to get your damage through, and you need the kind of combined effort, all the little tricks and mortals and rerolls where you can find them, lethals where you can find them. But anything that is not a tank or a big monster feels in very real trouble as soon as this starts connecting into it. Is that fair to say?
From what I've seen and what I've played, they will mop up infantry for fun.
Just straight through. Yeah.
Anything mounted is in trouble. It is when you come up against a clever player who's going to screen you with very high toughness vehicles and then put all the juicy center behind them. That's when you're going to struggle. But again, you've got the movement to cut those corners and get round things if you need to. And there's, for all those melee players out there, we've got loads of tricks where we can do the extra consolidations. We can do all these other wonderful things to swing around things to get where we want to be. But I think it's looking good.
Yeah, and so if we take it, I think we'll go now to the detachments and then start bringing it towards a close. Obviously, you played a couple of games as well, so there'll be some lessons from that. But in terms of the detachments, what are your standouts? You can obviously give us a sense of the character of each of the different ones, but then if there's any that you're really excited about and you think are a good place to start, we can go in a bit more depth as well.
I'm going to start with a problem, and then I'm going to get to the good stuff, guys.
I love it. Love it. Let's do it.
So, one that I have a real problem with is Slaanesh's Chosen.
Okay.
It sounds like it's got a great rule where you're going to be able to re-roll wounds. But whoever wrote this, again, any friends at Games Workshop, can you have a look at this one as a matter of urgency, please? So basically, it's they've got a nice little bit at the start where it says that you ignore all modifiers to charge rolls and advance rolls. Brilliant.
That is great.
It's great to have. But I'll read it out verbatim. So at the start of the battle, your warlord's unit is your army's favoured champion. So if you've got Fulgrim, he's your favoured champion. He's re-rolling all wounds. If otherwise, you can choose who your favoured champion is. The first time in each player's turn that the Emperor's Children character unit from your army destroys an enemy unit after resolving all of its attacks, that character unit becomes the new favoured champion, replacing the old one. So problem number one, you don't really want to run Fulgrim because you're going to have to use him aggressively and he'll go out and die. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is if a unit who isn't your favoured champion runs out and kills something, he becomes the favoured champion at the end of the turn. So he has a turn where basically he is probably going to run out, kill something, then get killed back in return and never get to use his rules.
Yes.
So it looks good on paper, but you're never really going to get to use this detachment rule because whatever you're sending out to become a champion is then probably going to trade and then die. So it's a problem. So we're not going to bother with the enhancements. We're not going to bother with the...
Slaanesh champions need some work. Not doing it. Yeah.
It's a great rule, but it just needs to be written so it actually works. So that's the problem. Let's go to the good stuff. So let's start with Mercurial Host. So Mercurial Host has got a very tame detachment rule, but a really effective one. You get to re-roll your advance rolls. And
that is awesome. Yeah.
As a man who loves rolling ones for advance rolls, this is very nice to have. It has, it gives you that kind of contingency to make your Marines get where you want to go to kill things, which is lovely. Have you got some nice enhancements? Let's pick out a few of my favorites. So we have an intoxicating musk, which you will find at any tournament in the country.
Yes.
Personal hygiene matters, guys. But again, so basically it's -1 to wound, which is always lovely to have.
That is really good. Yeah.
You stick it on a big demon prince.
Yeah, -1 damage, -1 to wound demon print sounds like a time. Yeah.
Happy days. Or you've got another little lovely one where one actually that's going to be one of those rare ones that supports your noise marines. If you stick on your cacophonist steeped in suffering, when an enemy unit is below starting strength, you add +1 to the hit roll. Below half, +1 to the wound roll.
Oh, that is very nice. Yeah,
So
that is very nice.
chuck a grenade in with somebody else, and then fire away with your noise marines, getting bonuses to hit and wound, possibly.
Yeah, really nice.
So yeah, those are probably my favourite ones in there.
Nice.
We've got some lovely stratagems. We've got Honour the Prince back, everybody.
Oh, fantastic news. Okay, and what form is this taking now?
Sadly, it's not one that guarantees massive charges, but it does help you a lot because it is a flat 6 advance.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that is awesome.
Take away your worries of rolling ones into ones. Get yourself where you want to be to punch someone in the face.
There. Yeah. Okay.
Again, you've got another subtract 1 from wound rolls with combat stims. And then the jank, which comes with reactive moves, and cruel raiders, where you can kind of semi-uppy downy things. If your unit is wholly within the 9 of a battlefield edge, it can be removed and put in strat reserves.
Yeah, nice.
Quality of life, you can get those late game secondaries. Lovely.
Yeah. Well, and does that work on noise marines? Suddenly noise marines popping off somewhere and appearing somewhere else feels pretty violent.
It definitely can, because it's just an Emperor
unit. So I mean, that's not bad late game. Suddenly turning up behind somewhere or on the flank, that's pretty
definitely
cool.
Unleashing all that noise. So Mercurial Host, I wouldn't say it's the best one.
No,
I would say it is top middle.
It smooths out the delivery, doesn't it? So I feel like for people getting to grips with it, just being able to get where you want to go is nice. And
I think it's your plug and play detachment where you've got your entry level. It smooths the curves for you, and the one thing it doesn't have is damage boosts. So if you're already finding that you're not punching through what you need to punch through, this isn't the detachment for you. Let's find one that might be. So let's move on to Cotery of the Conceited. Does anyone know? You're a professor of the world. What does Cotery mean?
I feel like it's like a sort of mischievous little gang. That's what I think it is. But we're gonna solve it live for our listeners right now.
It reminds me of the word charcuterie.
A small group of people with shared interests or tastes, especially one that is exclusive of other people. So I think I was there and it maybe tells you more about the kinds of coteries I've hung out with rather than the specifics of the term. But yeah, I think that fits for EC as a band of people who do love a series of shared interests and enjoy indulging them together.
Because it's different because I thought it was more like charcuterie, where it was a meat board for people who like posing in front of mirrors.
Well, yours will forever be called the charcuterie from now on. So that's how we're going to make that work.
Now, this one, I think there was an initial, when people first got hold of their kind of Codex or their leaks, they looked at it and were like, oh no, I have to do stuff to get my buffs, and this is hard. I don't like hard. But I think with a little bit of skill and a little bit of love and attention and a little bit of list planning, this can fly, and it does give you the damage buffs that you need to be awesome. So at the start of the game, each battle round, you make a pledge to the Dark Prince, and he will reward you if you achieve your pledge. So let's say first turn, I pledge to kill one thing. In theory, this hasn't been FAQ'd yet, but I believe that you'll be able to pledge 0. And if I was a clever chappy, I probably would turn 1 pledge 0, because there is a very useful strat called Unbound Arrogance where you can increase your pledge by 1. So yes, the downside is if you don't achieve your pledge, your warlord takes 3 wounds. So you are playing a bit of risk and reward here, but again, it's good if you have that demon prince because he's got a lot of wounds. You may have Fulgrim in the army because he's got a lot of wounds. But we play the game, and then you have to set up a situation where you're going to run out turn 1 with your scouting or infiltrating units, to go
Yeah.
and get that kill. And
Mhm.
even against a guard army, which was made up of multiple, well, I think it was 6 Layman Russ and 2 Sentinels and all this other nonsense, I managed to get my kill turn 1 from pretty much at the back of his home objective, killing a Sentinel with the Lord Exultant and his merry band. So you can definitely get the kills to get that +1, because the +1 gives you reroll hits of 1, which is beautiful, considering most of your cool units that you want to be pulverizing stuff hit on 2s. Your Lucius, your Demon Princes, your Lord Exultants. That means they're hitting it all the time. Then, if you get 3 kill or pledge or get to 3 pledges, you don't lose that one before they stack up. So you're then
Nice.
getting
Okay.
reroll wounds of 1 when you get to 3. When
Yeah,
you get
nice.
to 5, this is the sexy stuff now. When you get to 5, you're getting, well, you've got your reroll 1 to hit, you've got your reroll 1 to wound, but you're also getting sustained and lethal.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
Yes. And then if you're a mad lad who's run around his army, you've killed pretty much all his stuff, and you really want to be a bit of a dick about it and rub it in. You then get on 7, you get critical hits on 5s.
Oh my word.
So
Okay.
your lethal, sustained crit 5s with reroll 1s to wound and hit. And that's the point you take your shirt off.
Yes.
Like the chap at the picture at the top of the detachment, and raw sex noises into the sky.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's what you do, Slaanesh, right?
That's only fair. Yeah.
So what else is cool about the detachment? It's got some defensive enhancements, which are very nice. Because you're getting all the attacky stuff from the rule, you're now getting some defense in there. So you get a stand back up with D6 wounds remaining.
Lovely.
I think it's on a leadership test, a past leadership test. What loves standing back up? Demon Princes do.
Yeah, that's pretty obnoxious. Yeah.
So your lone op Demon Prince can stand back up on a leadership test, or your -1 damage can stand back up. Sexy. And then you've also got another one called Pledge of Unholy Fortune, which gives you the ability to... Oh, my eyes. This is crazy dance in front of me. It is basically, you can use the enhancement to once per turn after making a hit roll, a wound roll, or a save, which is the important one when you're getting shot by las cannons, and turn your save to turn that dice roll to a 6.
These are just always powerful things to have, right? Again, especially in runs on big tough targets, just suddenly change the game. It's really good.
Yeah. You turn around, you failed your 4-up in run, you've been hit by the Tau idiot with a railgun, and you just go,
no, absolutely not.
Not today, my friend. Then again, the theme of slightly defensive stratagems continue. You can get yourself a 6-up Feel No Pain and a 4-up Feel No Pain to mortal wounds, which is lovely to have. You've got this lovely, nice little fun one where we embrace the pain for 1 CP. Let's say you charge your meaty Demon Prince with its enhancement, lots of points in a big package into a unit, a melee unit that could do some damage to you. You charge a unit of Infractors into them as well. And then you pay this 1 CP. They have to fight your Infractors. Your Demon Prince lives and then eats them up, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We've got Armor of Abhorrence, which is another rolled over name from another edition.
Yes.
This time it is your Armor of Contempt.
Okay, that's a good thing to have. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah.
And then possibly the best one, which is your Unbound Arrogance, where you can +1 to your pledge. So if you overkill in your turn, let's say you said on my first turn I'm scoring none, but then you get your 1 kill, you can boost it with a CP, and you get your first turn buff of reroll hits because you've got your 1 pledge.
Yes, you can play it safe and still get out of dodge, basically.
That's it.
I like that.
So I think those are the highlights. Those are your highlights.
Yeah, and that's one of those detachments where if it gets to do its thing and go through the gears, you're suddenly getting to a place where the output is very, very, very good across the army, right?
Until you play knights, and then you're
Yes. And that is, and this is the running theme we're detecting, is like bullying living organisms appropriately enough is what this wants to do. You can't get much joy from tickling tanks, so
No,
they don't like tickling tanks. They want to go and tickle real living things that don't enjoy it.
that's
And
exactly
yeah,
it.
that makes complete sense. Okay, very nice. Any other standouts in the detachments?
I think Peerless Bladesman is. Oh, actually, there's two, isn't there? There's
Yeah, yeah.
the Rhino. So let's hit these two. So Peerless
I think
Bladesman,
we definitely hit those two. Yeah, they're
yeah,
both awesome.
they're really good. Is your lethal hits or sustained hits one if you
Yeah.
do a charge?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get it on the shooting, poor old Noise Marines, but you do
No.
get it when you run and punch things. So this one is your. I think it's a little bit creations of Biley. This one, I
Yes.
think the way I would like to run this one, or the way I, in theory, plan to, is you get the melee and you charge them, and you stick so many threats in front of them they don't know what to do,
Yeah.
and hopefully you last long enough to win all the primary.
Yeah.
The enhancements are lovely. The
Mm-hmm.
enhancements, I'll just read a few from over here. Blinding speed. Once per game, your unit gets fight first.
It's just good.
It's
It's
good.
just a good thing to have lurking out there. Yeah.
Stick it on your expansion objective. Stick the guys behind the wall and say, "Come and have a go. Come and have a go. See what happens." And
Yeah.
then one of the best enhancements in the Codex, distortion. Another rollover of name. It's +1 attacks. It's +1 damage. It's so good. And
Yeah, that's amazing.
obvious combos, Demon Prince. Second, and even more powerful, the Lord Exultant, who is,
Yeah.
when he has his good day and he gets his +3 attacks, he now gets +4 attacks, and his weapon goes to damage 3. And
Yeah.
he is killing everything.
Yeah. That's awesome.
He's so good. So those are your kind of your best thing. There's one called Rise to the Challenge, which is probably quite finicky to set up, where you get to fight again. I would say it's not as good as the other ones. I know people have been raving about this one, but the fact that you've got to be within engagement range of 3 models, that's hard. That's a lot harder than it sounds.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's okay if you're stuck in a fight with 20 Orc boys and you get to fight again. But if you're killing custodes and they pull the models correctly, or you're trying to consolidate, because there's a strat to consolidate 6, consolidate into something and then fight again, to get into 3 models and have it perfectly set up for you, if you're playing against a canny opponent, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
Sorry, guys. But
It's unfortunate.
hey,
You can try and rise to the challenge if you want, guys, but it sounds like it's difficult.
it's tricky. It's tricky. 2CP. There's a few. This is a 2CP round. So Death Ecstasy, auto fight and death. You don't have to roll.
That's great. Like, that just is good. That is just good to have. Yeah.
That is a great one. Cut down the week, 2CP. Possibly not as good, but when it happens, you are going to feel like you've gone to boss level, because this one is when your opponent falls back, because they're going to want to fall back. They want to get
They'll
away
try.
from you.
Oh, yeah.
One Emperor's Children unit in your army. You can select a vehicle if it's a walker. I like that. It means you're kind of jousting with a dreadnought.
Yeah.
And that you're within 6 of, and again, so horseshoe when you charge, so they're never going to get away from you.
Yeah.
You can declare a charge against them. They fall back, you charge them again.
Yes. Nice. And do you keep fights first bonus there?
I believe you do, because you're the charging unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So and so that's just when that unit falls back, it activates immediately when you've done that. Is that right?
That's when it stays. So your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy falls back. Yep.
If it sounds like I'm being very specific, it's because the Night Lords player in me is just moaning because they have one a bit like this, but it's much worse. Much worse. Doesn't work anything like as well, and it happens at the end of the phase. So it's very annoying. But that's juice. I think this was the detachment I got most excited about at the first sort of eyeing over, just because it's a fun range of tricks for bossing certain kinds of situations. I think it's definitely got a lot of play in it.
You've got the good combat army stuff to do there. Not only do you have you're going to have multiple fights first, you're going to have an unbeatable fight on death.
Yeah.
As long as you've kept the CP, that is. So you're just bossing combat.
Yeah, and that's and I think EC will have, and it'll be interesting to see out in the world. There's going to be choices, right? In teams, you can tech really brutally into the things you want to go and bully, and you can really skew in some of these detachments. But then in the wider world of Billy with his 13 Chaos Knights, you might need certain things to get through those situations. So
That's
it's figuring
definitely.
it out. Very, very cool. Okay, very nice.
Then I think we'll finish on. There is Carnival Access. Carnival Access is fun, but I still think it's middling when it
This is
comes
the
to power
demon
up.
soup one, right?
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
we're going to look at rapid evisceration in our time instead.
And this one is also very fun. This is very fun. Let's go.
This is Rhino Rush on
Yeah.
roids.
Yeah.
So it has mechanized murder, bringing
Yeah.
that mechanized madness to you. So when you get out of that Rhino on that turn, you disembark, you get
Hmm.
rerolls to hit and rerolls to wound of 1.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
your noise marines go to the next level. Your anything charging out of a transport, your flawless blades can only go in a land raider, but if they charge out of it, they go to the next level.
Mm.
And your infractors are loving rhinos, which is great,
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. Then it kind of, this is not a detachment for Fulgrim. I'd say
No.
that because every
No.
single well, not enhancement, but every single stratagem has got transport written in it, and he's
Mhm.
too big to get in those ones. So
Yes, he is.
um, this is definitely, if at the first look I thought 3 rhinos, 1 land raider, or
Mhm,
actually
mhm.
maybe I could drop the land raider and I could run 5 rhinos, but
Yes.
it's, you live and die by your transports.
Yes, it's like Sky Splinter for Drakari, right? A similar sort of situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as soon as they are dead, you've got nothing. You've got no
No
detachment
rules.
rule. Your strats aren't working anymore. So you look
Mm.
after those little carriages because they are what you need.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what your, well, it isn't actually, thinking about it. It's not really what your enhancements do. They're not protecting your vehicles. Basically, they're
Mm.
protecting the units inside them.
Okay.
So it's almost saying that you're going to lose these rhinos, but you're going to gain more efficiency out of the units that are inside them because you get to protect them
Okay.
more.
Okay.
So some blind presence. This is juicy. Um, a model which isn't in a transport, you can basically use that person's enhancement to put one of your transports into reserve, and then it can come out of reserve 1 battle round earlier.
Oh, it's nice. That's
So
nice.
in my mind, that means I have either a land raider that
Yeah.
pops up when
Yeah.
I roll first and go first in the game, obviously. Um, and it pops up with a beautiful angle to
Yeah.
shoot 2 lots of noise marines with
Yeah.
their cacophonous, because you can take 14 in that land raider now. So
Yeah.
those 14 idiots jump out and they
Oh.
nuke every single screen going in my opponent's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I've got the melee equivalent, which is 6 flawless blades and Lucius jump out, because there is I believe this works. People feel free in the comments to call me an idiot. That there is
Yeah.
one where on disembarkation from a vehicle, you can actually make a charge roll. I think they
Oh,
can get out.
nice.
I think they can get out and charge anyway. So
Mm.
I believe that is something you can do. So
Hmm.
we'll look at that very shortly when I come into the stratagems. But that would
Mm.
be cool, wouldn't it? Jumping out, having
Yeah.
6 flawless plays and Lucius nuke something, and
Get some pressure on for sure.
yeah, and if you look at this, so let's say I've got 4 lots of infractors inside rhinos who can scout 6. So I've not only got that bomb coming out of a land raider, I've got rhinos rolling up the board,
Yeah.
heaping
And
pressure.
that just and that we've seen it with bio. It's the same, right? It creates that nice. There's just then a default screen of slightly tough, obnoxious rhinos doing actions behind all the chaos that's happening, and
That
people
is
really
exactly
struggle
it.
to ever recover on score in that situation. It's really bad.
It is perfect, isn't it? And yeah, so you've
Yeah.
got another enhancement here. So it wouldn't work on Bile because it is an enhancement and you can't have them. So
Boo.
the enhancement is each time a bearer disembarks from a transport until the end of the turn, you can re-roll charges. Well, that's all
Mhm.
right. And you can ignore Overwatch. Oh, that's good.
Now that's good.
So
Yeah.
it might be, say, 10 infractors. You might even want to do that. It sounds stupid to me, but you might want 10
Yeah.
infractors doing that just because you can't have it on the flawless blades.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at the strats. So let's jump over. So advance and claims queue. You can have your tormentors inside transports stickying objectives.
That's really fun. Yeah.
That is really fun. And yeah, I think that is really nice. We've got on to the next, which is an Emperor's Children unit and one friendly transport it is able to embark in. If your Emperor's Children unit is wholly within 6 of the transport, it can embark within it. That is at, and this is the important bit, fight phase, just after Emperor's Children units from your army destroys an enemy unit.
Oh,
Chef's kiss.
nice. Yeah,
My 10
very
flawless
nice.
blades, they fly in, they kill, they come back a little bit, maybe with a consolidate. They get back in again and then like flick out the windows, flick the bird at people as they kind of run past.
Yeah, that gives you some nice recycling combat nonsense, right? You don't have to commit units in the same way. It's very nice.
Brilliant. And then the outflanking strike, I can uppy downy rhinos. I can take them off the board. 2 if it's a dedicated transport. I can even do it with a Land Raider, just one of them though. They're just really fun, cool, thematic
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. That's really fun.
It might not turn out to be the best detachment because you have to sink so many points into the transports.
Yeah.
But I think this one looks like a hell of a rush. It's going to be super fun.
Yeah, oh yeah. And it's probably where the Land Raider might get some action as well, which is nice. Nice for the Land Raider to have
get one in there at least. Definitely one.
Okay. So, I mean, there's very different directions there. There are some that are a bit more brain intensive than others, and some that are just like, just be a bit better at one of the things. Be a bit faster, be a bit killier. You got your fight phase control one in the Peerless Blades, and then Cotery is going to help you get up to the real high levels of juice, but also has some nice little defensive tricks and bits and bobs as well. So there are a lot of avenues to explore, which I think is very exciting. That feels pretty good. Feels like a pretty good mix of things.
Yeah, the Codex is really good. I have to say, apart from that one miss with Slaanesh Chosen, all the rest of the detachments have got something about them. They're different. They're fun. I'll tell you one thing I noticed though. Out of all the old enhancements and relics that there used to be, do you remember the Maraviglia, the relic of the
Yes,
Maraviglia?
I do remember that. Yes,
I would have put hard cash down to say that would have been continued over in this Codex.
Yeah.
Even just the name in a different guise.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah, interesting. Which is weird considering you've got to come up with 6 detachments worth of stuff for Emperor's Children and you've not recycled like that. That is odd. Yeah, interesting. And I guess we've touched. You played a couple of games with it. How would you say if you were going to sort of sell this in terms of its play style and its feel so far? Is it hitting the sweet spot for you? And is there any sort of early promising things, warning signs from your games played?
I think it is. It's not brain intensive in the way that if you played Genestealer Cult, it would be. When you've got to constantly mind your resources and worry about them in that way. Yeah. I think it's a lower level of that where you've got to be constantly pre-planning your strategies for the turns ahead. You need to have your eye on the army rule at all times. You have to really concentrate on the killing power of each of your units and how to get the most out of it. Because you don't have a huge amount of units and you don't have a huge amount of choice in units. So you've got to have the tools for each of the jobs. You've got to write solid lists from the get-go that are going to hit the notes that the detachments are telling you to sing. And if you get that right, the world is your oyster because you have so much ability to outmaneuver, outplay, outscore with the inbuilt abilities and datasheet abilities of your battle line, plus the additional layers of your army rules and stratagems. So I think it's cerebral enough to make it really fun and engaging, but not too cerebral to make it hard work.
Like just actually unpleasant. And you've just got some nice, tough, punchy guys in and amongst it, and then lots of speedy infantry. And go fast and hit things is a good vibe, right?
It is a super vibe. And then and it's not just a one-phase army because you've got the noise marines, and that brings in so much more fun. Because I've been playing Creations of Bile. Before that, I was playing Raiders, and then a lot of my armies before that were like the Accursed Cultists, throw them all forwards, and I do get a lot of joy from that. And you can do that here. You can do that here, and then you can also Sonic Blast people to death from behind that. And why not have all the fun?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the thing with it. I think I suspect on paper it looks one way, but I think it's going to have a higher ceiling. I think it's going to be very strong. And I think although it is very fragile in its component parts, if all its component parts get you in a headlock and get you tagged up and tied up in the wrong places, and you're being fully pushed by this, I don't think the fragility will matter. I think it will be able to pull off the kind of the glory turn that brings it all down, which is very much where you'd want an army like this to be.
I think depending on where the meta goes, if we're talking tournament play, if the meta starts shifting more to your kind of Eldari with the infantry bodies, or somewhere in kind of like maybe like Blood Angels are great, because we'd be great into Blood Angels. You've almost got two styles of play in my mind to start with. You've got a high pressure, start in the midboard, push forwards, trap your opponent, and then keep on hammering them. Win the primary behind it, get your cards because you're that far up the board. Or you almost have that older, almost like Josh Roberts style of play with Renegade Raiders, where it was take a crap ton of OC and feed it to the meat grinder. Deny and hold and win the game that way.
No, 100%.
I think that's the way.
And so where would we say, if you were going to rate this out of 10, I know this is a really facile way to end a show, but people love to do it. If you were going to rate this out of 10 for yourself, Lee, as a release and as the current state of the book as it's coming out, how happy are you with it? How are you feeling?
I would rate it 11 because it's one louder. One louder.
There we go. That's it. Only positivity on this show. No nonsense.
And for those Spinal Tap fans out there, that's one for you.
Yeah, there you go. Beautiful. Absolutely. And I think, as I say, I think it's probably the most exciting release of the edition. I think there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of people we know really excited to get to grips with it. I'm really excited to see how this book evolves. And obviously over the next few years, how the faction evolves, because now it's got its own design space. That's really fun. It's going to be really cool.
I think this kind of this set of data sheets and the rules, the ideas that we've already seen, it can only get better.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's already great.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty sweet place to be. All right, guys, that's it for this time. We'll be back again soon. And once Lee's been out killing some people with Emperor Children, we will, of course, have him back for some event reports and get some stories from the field as well. Thanks for supporting us. Do hit the old like and subscribe. Leave a comment. If you want to sign up as a YouTube member as well, we'd love to have you. Brilliant. See you again next time. Bye-bye.